What is going on, Internet land? Welcome to this year's Design Forum Podcast 2017 reunion show. I'm Preston, and we are joined by some of the usual suspects you may know from the past. We're going to start with one, Mr. Victor Lugo. Victor, how's it going today, my friend?
It's going very well. We made it through 2007, and I'm very happy to be here.
We did it, man. We're here. And, of course, joining us, as always, one Mr. Hollywood, Nick Lang, all the way from Seattle, or somewhere Redmond, or somewhere up in that part of the country.
Yes, Redmond.
Redmond.
That's where we are right now.
Redmond.
First,
Awesome.
I want to kick off and say, Preston, you do an amazing amount of work to keep this thing going once a year. These are some of my favorite days of the year.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I know it's the holidays. It's hard to get everybody together and get a time, but here we are. We're doing it again. It's not a problem. So let's just start kind of what we do every year. You know, Victor, what are you up to? What have you been up to since we saw you last? Have you had any position changes or design or career changes, or what's been going on with you?
I would say yes. The answer is yes. I've made some pretty large changes. I am now stuck. Actually, I'm now back where I started 10 years ago, working for Parks and Resorts. I'm a show producer now, doing a lot of the interactive and advanced technology initiatives for NBC Universal in the Universal Studios parks. So that's a lot of fun, getting back to kind of my ride and show roots and trying to bring some interactivity there. And I brought an angry guy on named Mr. Barnes, Mr. Jason Barnes also, who's been there for about a month, and we've just basically been trying to knock out as many interactives as we can across the parks and make sure that we're speaking the language of the gamer as they get ready to come into the parks. Super Nintendo Land coming 2020.
Oh, I can't wait, man. Again, we were talking off camera. My son is now a Super Mario fan, and we took him to Disney for the first time this year. And he got super excited to hear that one day there will be a Mario-based theme park for him. So he's super excited about that.
Yep.
Awesome. So you said is Jason now Orlando again?
He is. We sit 15 feet away from each other.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible.
He left me for Victor.
He did.
Very cool. Nick, what you been doing since we last talked to you about a year ago this time?
The last year was all about shipping. It was a big change to the way that they made games before. Rather than just one platform, it came out simultaneous with the PC, which you would think should be pretty similar to the Xbox. Since there was Forza Horizon before that also came out on PC, and there was Forza Apex. We assumed we would have had a lot of momentum and it wasn't going to be a big speed bump. It was a speed bump. It was an uphill battle, but we did get it. We did make it all the way through. It was frankly one of the toughest summers I've ever had in the industry, but the feedback and the accolades they sort of ease the scars a little bit. My time, and lately I've been off work for like 2 weeks now, so I hardly know what day it is.
So I mean, we can't talk about it. You mentioned, of course, Forza 7 won the Best Sports and Racing awards this year, and we kind of feel that would happen, right? Because I mean, there were some good accolades at some of the trade shows leading up to the event.
Right. Yeah, I think best racing game at E3, best racing game at Gamescom, best sports / racing game at the Game Awards. That's that kind of accolade I'd never been part of, that sort of long parade of accolades, especially in a year when so many racing games came out, right? There was F1, Project Cars, Need for Speed, coming from EA. Gran Turismo. They still put out a game.
I like how he did that. And them.
You know, at E3, everybody always asks me, so what do you think of Gran Turismo? And I always say I'm always excited to see whatever game they come out with, whenever they come out with it.
Yep.
Well, competition's healthy, right? It inspires everybody to do a little better than the next guy. You know, you don't have competition. I think sometimes you might rest on your laurels a little bit. And, you know, I think it's always good.
Yeah.
For me, you know, still chugging along, still doing the work thing. You know, I'm not much into gaming anymore as much as I'd like to be, just with adulting and a lot of beer brewing. been winning some awards. Got a best of show from my Hefeweizen this year, Best Florida Beer. So that was like the best beer at the entire festival. Jaw hit the table because usually best of show is reserved for the vanilla chai brown porter with, you know, rose hips and all this stuff. You know, very, very well crafted, crazy beers. So to win for Hefeweizen was very surprising, and again, just an absolute honor, and you know, just to be in such good company, good beers, and for people to say that your basic bitch, is what I want to say, Hefeweizen basically beat out all these fancy beers. I mean, Hefeweizens are very, very simple in nature. You know, it's % Pilsner and some yeast, but you know, really there's some special sauce in the way you treat the yeast, and been learning some of those secrets, and it's been paying off. So just been doing a lot of brewing, not much game playing, and a lot of working. But that's been my update.
I think that if we can just deviate from games for a minute, I think the world is tired of the opaque pumpernickel vanilla stouts, and they want normal beer again.
Yeah.
However, here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm within a rock's throwing distance of 4 or 5 pretty big names in the microbrewing world here, as far as Pacific Northwest. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got like 8 IPAs and a couple of, you know, monster stouts. But I'm starting to see, even though it's winter and we get a lot more stout and porter kind of dark beers, I'm starting to see more pale ale, lager, normal, what I would say normal beer. Mm-hmm. And people are like, oh, have you tried this? It's, you know, it's never something strange. Now it's just like normal beer. And it makes me kind of feel happy, because a really well-crafted normal beer, I think, will always beat out somebody's crazy science fiction, you know, attempt. But I will say that Preston sent me $5 6-pack I've ever had. And I got
that damn shipping, man. You got a cross-country shipping. It ain't cheap. That's the problem. I know. If I did something like that, I'm not saying I did ship any beer across state lines or anything like that. Not that I would ever do anything like that. But if one did, it would be very expensive.
That's right. A big
man.
Right.
Guy knows the law.
Is it? If I was going to do something like that, would I be breaking the law?
Depends on what state you send it to. Texas definitely against the law. If I can tell you that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to break the law, that'd be a pretty good one to break.
Yeah, definitely don't go USPS. I mean, it's 100% against the law to ship it through the national post office there. UPS and FedEx is just against policy unless you go to the right location who's done their extra diligence to be able to ship alcohol and know which states they're supposed to ship to and can't ship to. And you got to be over 21 labels and IDs and stuff like that.
Wow.
Interesting.
So I've heard.
I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
I didn't have the time to do that.
Yeah, the strange thing with beer is it comes in cycles. You know, IPAs are real hot now. I think this year you've seen a lot of the big, what they're calling pastry stouts. You know, these big double chocolate waffle, this and that. You know, but I agree with you, Nick. I am seeing a resurgence of simplicity and classic. You know, and that's what I've always tried to focus on. Because to me, from the competition, it's here's your window. You know, here's what you got to design within. I mean, as long as you follow the rules and understand the style and care thing. So that's why I always like is the challenge of simplicity, because a lot of these lighter style of beers, they're easier to see flaws. You know, like you have to be really clean in your process and everything.
Right. Well, if nobody's ever had the beer that you're handing them, how are they supposed to know whether it's right or not? Mm-hmm. You know, if there's a standard to be judged by, then it needs to be more exacting.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I do digress. This is not a beer chaser podcast. I will talk about beer all day. So let's get back to games. The task at hand.
Nick, I got to force a question for you, real quick, Preston, before we move over. He can't answer this. Actually, as a car enthusiast, Nick, I'm a mid-level enthusiast. You are at the peak here. Do you feel like a representation of the Tesla or any other electric car would be cheating in the car racing space? How do you feel about that?
I think so. My personal feelings are not the same as a lot of other real hardcore gearheads. So we did have Teslas in Forza Motorsport 5 and Forza Motorsport 6, and we do have like the Formula E cars in 7 as well. I think that it's still it's still cars. It's still steering wheels and tires. And so, and I think that's like whatever's powering it is not as important.
Jet
But
engines.
you think are you asking, like, could we have an electric car in NASCAR, or could we have an electric car compete against a drag racer, like Top Fuel funny car or something?
That's more or less what I'm asking about. You know, like that specific, it's drag specifically, which is the problem, right? Or the advantage, I'd say.
Right. The ludicrous mode on the Tesla X up again. Like, are you still driving the Charger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even the Hellcat. It's still faster than those cars. Yeah.
Like the family sedan could beat the Hellcat or the Demon.
Right. Yeah. But then it probably couldn't drive back to the charging station because it uses up all the juice. Yeah, you can't compete that way. The same way you can't compete 4-cylinder against 8-cylinder, and you can't complete, and it's hard to make the playing field even for a rear-wheel drive car versus a all-wheel drive car, given the same power plant with the electric motors, especially with drag. You'd have to have something else. However, I really want to see electric drag, because what happens when that's what they build the car for?
Yeah.
Doesn't it turn into like some sort of magnetic mass gun or some sort of Gauss weapon where the people are like liquefied because it moves so fast?
Yeah.
I think what we see in other, so a lot of auto racing is not just about as fast as you can get from point A to point B. It's a lot about the endurance of the car, so tires and fuel wear. So you look at the Formula E races, which tend to be not as much fun. I actually really enjoy them. But what was interesting to me was they had to change that car so that it was efficient enough to get enough racing so that they could still do like a 2-hour race. And they actually don't, when they do a pit stop, they'll change the tires. But when they do a battery swap, they actually do a car swap. So the car pulls into a tent. They've got another car parked right next to it, and a guy jumps out, turns around, jumps back in, and there's people holding the belts open for him, and he hops into the other car, and they belt him up, and then he drives out of the tent.
Wow. See, I never knew that. They have those in Miami, but I never knew they're swapping cars.
They have they got, they have that real high-end torque, but they have fairly skinny tires for that kind of car. So they actually slip around a little bit, which you don't usually see that F1 style, all the aero wings and stuff like that. I think they're trying to find the right type of form. Look like old cars, which look like that because there was a big engine and that had a lot of weight, and it all was in one place. But with the electric cars, they're all spread out.
Yeah.
We can talk about beer and cars all day long. And
I was gonna say, at least you have proof that he actually works on Forza, everybody. Like,
yeah,
it's real. Congratulations, you won a sports.
Well,
you
know what happens is, so Victor, you'd probably remember some of this from EA Sports. As soon as you tell somebody what you work on, they're like, the conversation quickly goes there, especially if it's video games. And for me, I get asked, oh, what's the fastest car you've ever driven? And what kind of car do you drive? And sometimes I'm like, I don't have enough details about my own personal car for the person that's asking me questions to believe that I actually know what I'm talking about. You would run into that with Madden, with like football guys asking you about all these different types of coverages and matchups, and you're like, you've outstretched my ability to have this conversation.
I can put it together one hell of a Gantt chart, though, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's right. I can hold my own in an MMA conversation pretty good, but I'll still run across people that know like small AAA regional champions just waiting to make their break into the sub-regional, And
oh, you call yourself a fan? You don't know about Joe?
Yeah, that's right. How can you know about the? Yes.
I have a video game.
You got your black belt yet?
No, man, I'm still working on it. I'm trucking along.
Brown belt?
Yeah, in theory, yes, but no. So we log the training on cards, and I have 4 cards spread out around this city. Fine. if I can combine them, I might be halfway to black. But you know, got about 12 sessions on each card to get promote stripe, and I already have 3. So yeah, man, maybe I do. Maybe Preston. I'm gonna combine those cards.
Yeah. I'd love to get back into it. I'm gonna get Dexter into it as soon as we're out of school here. Right now we're paying for the school he's in, but next year he starts real kindergarten, so I get that money back, and I think I'm gonna take that and get him in jiu-jitsu and see if I can't roll it up in some sort of family deal or something. You know, get it for cheaper, getting us both in there, and I'd love to get back into it.
It's still good. It still works.
Yeah. So, all right. Good.
Victor, I did the same thing, and usually what people will say up here is they're like, "Oh, what belt did you get?" And I said, "Well, I practiced continuously for 6 years in jiu-jitsu after 14 years of Hapkido." And that usually solves the problem of what belt are you?
I'll tell you like this, Preston. Let's see. Dickerman got his black belt last month, and Dickerman's been training since 2005, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm on the Dickerman track.
Yeah. Still 6-year college track.
Yeah.
All right. So I know towards the end of the podcast last year, I asked you guys some things you were looking forward to in 2017, some games you were looking forward to. Nick, one you mentioned was The Last of Us, and the side note here was that you might actually have to buy a PlayStation for the first time in 20 years.
That's not going to happen.
Did you buy a PlayStation? No.
Nope. In fact, if you remember what I said about buying the PlayStation, I told you the story about why I hated Sony so much, which was Outlaw Volleyball 2. I did the port from Xbox, the original Xbox, to PlayStation 2. And the original Xbox version was really easy. You could kind of swap files and it would run in real time. And it was basically like running like a PC. And I did the version, the port to the PS2, and my life, and it was up in the top 3 worst game experiences of my profession. As like never buying another PlayStation, another Sony product. Totally blackballing it. So last year, after you and I talked, I had a Panasonic plasma TV, and it was just at the end of its life. I needed to go get a new one. So the Super Bowl sales were on. The Sony deal was unavoidable. So I bought into a Sony thing after almost 20 years. And for about 9 months, it was a good choice. Then the graphics card burned out. 2 weeks later, a guy comes in, swaps out the graphics card. I have to pull it off the wall myself. 3 months after that, the graphic card burns out again, and they say, "Oh, we're just going to buy you a new TV." The only answer you could have done that didn't make me throw this through the window. So 5 weeks after that, I get a TV, but they don't take my old TV. So I have 2 65-inch Sony TVs in my living room, which is quite small. Call them back and say, "All that thing you said you were going to do, you didn't do it." "Oh, we'll be there, but it's Christmas, so next week." So I'm still not sure if I made a good choice, but well, I do know that Last of Us 2 didn't come out.
All right, Vic, you'd mentioned I had to go and do this phonetically because I have no clue what this game was. You were interested in a game called Nier Automata.
Yes, my goodness.
Did you get a chance to play it?
Yes, I did. It's fantastic.
Oh,
you all should play that game.
No, Nick, everybody hates it, Victor. Everybody hates it, right?
Everybody
hates Automata?
No.
There's 2 versions?
Yes, part 1 is different than part 2, so maybe part 1 they do. So yeah, there was a Nier back in the day. Yes, you're right, and it had potential, but wasn't really there. The new one is made by Platinum Games, and you know how I feel about Platinum Games. That game it's fantastic, actually.
What kind of game is it?
That's a good question. I would say it's an RPG first and foremost, kind of a action JRPG. But I think you would really enjoy it. It kind of does this thing where it seamlessly changes gameplay from kind of action melee to your typical RPG. but it also has so the character has melee attacks, but they can shoot as well, and it changes perspectives seamlessly as well. So it'll go from bullet hell, like literally bullet hell, top down bullet hell where you're shooting, and the character will be using the exact same mechanics. Then the character will land, and now they're in third person melee style combat. So they do side bullet hell and top down bullet hell and third person fighting. It's bananas.
By bananas, you mean terrible, right?
Oh no, it's oh my gosh, it's
sounds terrible.
Oh, I called it. It's beautiful. It'll make your head explode, Nick. It will make your head explode. It's something that you shouldn't plan for or try for the sake of not losing all your money. But somebody else must have paid platinum to make this. They seem to be good with taking risk with other people's money. You may know something about that working at Microsoft, but yeah, in the air it worked out.
I can't imagine being in a boardroom and them coming to me and giving me the pitch that Victor just gave us and saying, "All right, yeah, try that."
It's so good. I don't know what to say. Really, really, really good game.
Awesome.
Got like an 89 Metacritic or something. I think it's the best game of the year.
Metacritic's still reliable. Is it still the standard? Again, I'm not subject to games anymore, so I don't know if are people still looking at Metacritic as the standard of this is how you judge a game.
I think so.
I don't know. I think yeah, maybe for like in the AAA world, it's probably still the same internally for business. It's weird, right? Like Nintendo. I mean, that award show that Nick won is getting a lot of exposure now, and people are starting to really consider that a thing, right? Like when people say Zelda's Game of the Year, they're talking about the video game awards. They're not talking about anything else. They're not talking about EGMs or
yeah. Something I was going to bring up was I know G4 used to do an award show, and then they kind of stopped doing it. And then this one came along, and it's actually picked up a lot of steam, got a lot of credibility. I mean, it was live streamed everywhere, had a great production value, and I think people were like really excited again to have an awesome game award.
I couldn't quite figure out who did the VGAs. Was that like Spike or something? Because that was kind of big, wasn't it?
I don't. Are those aren't the same thing? I have no idea.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Spike or G4, one of those channels, one of the dude channels.
Yeah, VGAs was definitely on Spike for a while. It may have been on G4 back in the day. I don't know anymore. It's too confusing. We just have our own show. Wait a second, we do this. We just need to. Somebody just need to inject $2 million into it, and I'll call Game of the Year in the air.
Nick, what'd you play in 2017? What were you into? What were some good, fun, exciting games you want to share with the audience?
Let's see. What was the first Mordor game? Shadow of Mordor?
Shadow of Mordor. New and Shadow of War.
Because I am nothing if not timely. I finished that about 2 months ago. I actually thought it was really, really good. It had everything about it taken in piecemeal. If we sort of said, hey, let's look at the combat, let's look at the art, let's look at the pacing, let's look at the story, we would all go, hey, that's really good. And I think if you took everything all at once as a whole big thing, you would say, oh, it's a pretty good game. Most people would say that. But there was this huge, massive, glaring weirdness about it in the sense that the game that everybody really loved only happened about halfway through. You had to get like 50 hours into it before you were able to do the thing where you're taking over all the captains and stuff like that. When I figured that out, I was actually quite surprised. And I thought everybody was talking about how great this game was, and without a doubt it is great. But that to me is a glaring flaw because the whole game was based on this whole make your mark on the character, and then the character has allegiance to you. And I can't wait for that to happen. And it took so long. I thought, well, nobody told me that it was going to take this long.
You got to be on the second part of the map for that happens.
That's right. I mean, it didn't even give an indication that there was a second part of the map.
No.
There was a little icon for a gate, but it was not much different from the icons for the caves that were in the other areas. And so you would go into those caves and you'd say, Oh, that must be what that icon is. It's about the same distance from the visible map. It's, there's a fog of war thing in there. Not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But really good game. That one took me quite some time to finish. I always say I'm not really into these big, huge spectacular game things. But then I play through one of these things. I put like 100 hours into it, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, the drawback for me is, it seems like every game I want to play is some big AAA blockbuster that I know is going to take the time that I don't have. So I haven't bothered with it, man. Party gaming and quick in and out, Battlefield 1 and stuff like that. Things I don't have to really think too much. Go in, shoot some dudes, get out, and have a good experience.
So you are in Battlefield 1. You did get the rig to play Battlefield 1?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've always been a PC gamer, so I'm always keeping up. And on every 3 or 4 years, I'll buy a 60 level card, NVIDIA, whatever the 60 is that year that's out. The $200 card. I'll buy one of those every 3-4 years. And thankfully, computers haven't been on, was it Murphy or Moore's law that every 2 years they double. Lately, processors have pretty much stabilized, and you don't need much more gigs than 16 gigs of RAM and everything. So get a new video card every 4 years and call it a day. But
okay,
yeah. So we're a little bit. Nick, anything else you played this year that was exciting?
Going back in time, I'm sure there was something I spent a lot of time on. I can't think of it right now, though. I'm doing a lot of Assassin's Creed Origins right now.
Okay.
Which is stunning and breathtaking and beautiful, and it does a really good job of making me feel completely inadequate because I'm not a very good fighter and I'm not a very good archer, and I'm already like level 20. I really have to pick my battles. More than 2 or 3 people at a time, I'm rolling the dice. So it does force me to play stealthy, which is kind of neat. So I'm trying to decide whether it's because I suck or because the game actually wants me to be very cautious. Whereas in, say, like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, you could stand in the middle of the town square and just call on 20 people.
Interesting. Vic, how about you, man? What you been playing in 2017?
Well, I will tell you in just a second. Before that, I'm going to say this. This year has, I'm going to say, maybe is in the top 3 years in video game history for games. So much good stuff came out this year, and didn't have time to play it all, but I played a bunch of it. So I played 6 or 7 games. I played Nier Platinums. I played Neo. I played Breath of the Wild, Wolfenstein 2, Mario Odyssey. Those are kind of the big ones. I'm missing one, but whatever. It was a really good year. I mean, you had Resident Evil 7 come out, which is the best virtual reality game in my opinion. Even if you don't like VR, just play the game. Fantastic game. You had new Forza come out. You had, so I mean, it was just all around good. Madden was doing new things. First 5 are the ones I played. All really good games. I'm glad I didn't waste my money or time on anything.
Very cool. I'm going to jump into some news sections we had here, so I'll kind of piggyback on what you just said. One of the things we talked about last year that I know Rocky was looking forward to, and I think you'd mentioned some interest in, was Magic Leap. And I know we just got some news on the Magic Leap just here recently in December about they finally unveiled the augmented reality goggles, say that it's launching next year. So it doesn't look like it's hit the market quite yet. But some facts about that. Basically consists of a pair of oversized, cyberpunk goggles, punk-shaped external computer called a light pack, and a handheld controller. It's supposed to accept multiple input modes, including voice, gesture, head pose, and eye tracking, persistent maps and objects onto the environment. For the example they give is you could place a virtual TV on the wall over your fireplace, and when you return, that TV will still be right where you left it. SDK supposedly coming in early 2018. The hardware is supposed to ship at some point next year. Given what we know about it, Vic, I know Nick, you have a disdain towards the VR, the augmented. So I'll go with Vic first. What are your thoughts here on what you've read, and are you still excited to see it? Have you seen anything in your industry? Kind of leaning towards some of this type of stuff. Like, what can you talk about?
What can I talk about? That definitely starts to get into some areas that I'm interested in, both personally and professionally. I think AR is the future. So I guess my high level thought on it is I'm just glad that that particular piece of technology and that approach to displaying things continues to progress. I don't know if many people have actually looked into the Magic Leap goggles, but just the fact that there are companies working on this type of thing is fantastic, because I do think that will be a key in the future. You're going to see it all over the place in some way or another. And it's not like it's not like it's super new technology. I mean, at the end of the day, Pepper's Ghost is augmented reality, and Universal Studios Ghostbusters show was doing that in like '92. We're just figuring out new ways to display this stuff. So yeah, I look forward to it, and hopefully one day it's the size of my regular glasses, or displayed in some other way where I don't even need to wear glasses. But yeah, seems cool, fun. Thank you, Minority Report. Now everybody wants to do it.
Nick, what are your thoughts on Magic Leap? I don't know if you've looked much into it. I know. Generally, again, you don't have a passion for VR and augmented, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I am not very bullish on it still. I think that it's cool and interesting. I think it's mostly novelty. Magic Leap has shown something that was a little bit more compelling than the other stuff that's out there now. I think my position still remains the same, that it's too expensive, too niche, and you're quite alone and isolated when you do it with the full VR with the big headset on. The machine needed to do that. What are they saying now? 120 hertz it needs to be to prevent people from being sick. Got to be 4K, so you need two 4K at 120 hertz.
Cool.
I might have a computer at work that does that, but I don't think most people do. The AR stuff is interesting to me. So the Magic Leap and the HoloLens, those things are both pretty cool. Really for entertainment. I think maybe there's a Pokemon Go kind of thing out there, but still that's an awfully expensive rig for a Pokemon Go game that you can play just with your phone.
Yeah.
I did see something many years ago at ITSEC, the defense show at Orlando, which was basically that would help you repair a satellite or your truck or a machine used mostly for NASA and the military. But I can extrapolate that it turns into basically the DIY of the future. So right now, if I'm fixing something at home, like my dishwasher is broken and I don't know anything about it, I look up on YouTube and I watch the YouTube video and then I go do this thing. Well, I can easily imagine HoloLens where I just plug it in. It doesn't have to be super high graphics or anything. And it says, hey, this piece, and it will slam the environment, recognize the piece and say, you need to take this piece and move it off and slide this piece in. So, or you get somebody in your ear and you're going to say, hey, I'm underneath my car doing brakes. I've never done it before. And I subscribe to a DIY service and they get the mechanic on the phone. He goes, all right, let's look at what you're looking at. And he can see through my eyes. And right out there on the right, grab that thing, move this around. Now that's pretty cool. I think that that's probably something that we'd be able to see in the next 5 years.
And HoloLens is now certified protective eyewear, right? Did you hear that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I believe that. I guess it's, I kind of agree, Nick. Like I think the big boys for entertainment purposes, if you see it in parks or something, that could be really cool. The practical usage of it is where I think it's going to be really big. But also, it already is really big, right? What would the NFL be without augmented reality, without that yellow line on the field?
Yeah. No, that's great.
Gosh, without mixed reality, it's like
that's a really good example of augmented reality has been around for a while and it's been highly beneficial. I remember before Barnes left his last job to go to your job, we were talking about augmented reality or VR being the requirements for it, the resources needed. It's really striking and breathtaking when you do it once. It's not very cool if you do it 5 or 6 times. However, the amusement park world seems to be a really good fit for it. Something like that makes perfect sense to me. Now, I would expect it to be as off the wall as the Harry Potter ride, where it's movies and a roller coaster and fireworks and pyro, you know, all that kind of stuff. Just makes it even better. So there is a world for it. I just don't know if it's going to be sitting on my coffee table.
Most people don't have it. I'm excited about some of this technology. Again, I'm a super VR fanboy, and it is a little bulky still. It's still a lot to solve, but it was good enough for me that it just really it brought back that immersion and the willingness to explore what can and can't I do. Whereas there's still a lot of games that are cool. You sit on the couch, you play, but it's kind of like you go through the motion a little bit. And yeah, the experience is fun, but that VR really opened up my eyes of that like child wonderment again. Like, can I do this? What can I do? What happens when I do this? And just spending time in an environment with no real goal in mind, just to go, what can and can't I do? So I'm always interested to hear the technologies. The Magic Leap does seem like it's the less obtrusive. You're not in that big old bulky headset. It is the kind of goggles, but to your guys' point, it comes down to the cost and the efficiency, and can you run that on a little light pack computer thing that's supposed to be included with it and get the experience that they're promising, finding the right value and the right, everything to kind of fit the right price point and still give you the experience that they're selling and advertising.
Yeah, question is, who are they targeting? Like that's really it. If they're targeting you and me in our house, that might not be. They may be you and me in our house, but like if they're targeting, the average person on the street, maybe not. So I feel like their goal may be a little different right now. I feel like HoloLens is maybe as well, actually, getting it certified as approved eyewear. It's like, you want mechanics to use, you want people to use this stuff for some practical purposes. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I hope they don't stop. I guess that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not going to buy one for my house right now because there's no games for it, obviously. But I hope they don't stop. I want to see it continue to evolve.
Indeed. Let's jump along, shall we? So the next news story I wanted to kind of touch on is something that's a little near and dear to our hearts. Our good old pals at Electronic Arts, where we all met each other, put out a little game called Battlefront 2, and caused quite the commotion with some of their microtransactions and loot box inclusion of the game. And I'm going to pull up the article here just so I can get an idea what it was again. Of course, the site went down, but generally, they were putting microtransactions in this game to the point where you'd have to play for 4,000 hours to be able to compete with something you could buy, for almost what it seemed like be a couple $100. So I don't know if you guys looked too much into these. Just wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on kind of EA's approach in this case, and whether you want to defend or get on the bandwagon of jumping on them, and just really in general, microtransactions in this market. We started, we're all in the industry. Microtransactions were just kind of coming along, the whole DLC thing, and we had Facebook games with coins and pay to play, and it's probably been about, 10 years or so since it's really been like an accepted kind of add-on to the gaming experience. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on kind of what EA went through, maybe what you would have done or what they shouldn't have done, and kind of just in general the market of microtransactions and loot boxes.
There's two stories that happened with the Battlefield or the Battlefront game, right? One was the that 40,000 hour comment where a guy that played the beta said, "Oh, I've made 100 coins in an hour, so if I need 40,000 coins to get Darth Vader, that means 40,000 hours," or something like that. That comment it's kind of ignorant in the sense that he's assuming that the earn rate stays the same throughout, when if you had any experience with just reward or economy systems, the earn rate sort of logarithmically spikes, and so he kind of made the situation worse, right? With a weird outsider's view. And it's not that I don't want to blame him so much as I want to make sure that as professionals, we make sure that we're speaking the right language and saying the right message. And giving somebody a beta and allowing them somehow to think that this is a final product is a huge, I think that is a path fraught with peril that we're already on when it comes to things like PUBG's Battlegrounds and all sorts of stuff like the H1Z1 and the Rust and all that kind of stuff, that they're not done games and everybody gets mad about it. Anyway, that's one problem. The other problem is loot boxes in general. I think that, man, we need to call Jason Barnes. I think that it is lazy game design for a real issue. And I'll pick on Tiger Woods for a little bit. You can't spend $50 million, $70 million, $125 million on a game and still charge $60 and expect that to be a reasonable business. Bottom line, if it's not for VIP and metal box and DLC, PL or whatever that kind of stuff you want to call, that is a bankrupt model. You will not make money. And that we need to be honest about that with ourselves as professionals and also with the public. Like we can't sell a product that is the same price as it was 10 years ago and still expect to make money when the cost of it has skyrocketed. So what happens is a guy up top says, this game needs to make more money. And a guy somewhere in the middle says, well, loot boxes cost money. That means they make money. Let's put loot boxes in our game. And then some guy tries to design a way where it's balanced, but doesn't necessarily really look into true gacha mechanics and true healthy economics. And it turns it into a really abusive relationship with the user. Where I went to Project Horseshoe this year in November, which, Victor, I'm going to get you there.
I'm going this year.
I'm going to get you there.
All right, let's go.
Well, one of the conversations was about ethical monetization, and everybody was like, well, that's impossible. Ethical monetization is ask for it and then, or have them check a box so that they're automatically kind of bought into the idea that they have to pay money. And it's actually more around, let's make sure that they're buying what they want. So that means we have to create what they want and then give them opportunities to buy it. Loot boxes done wrongly, which is, there's plenty of examples out there, is you already paid for this, but we need you to pay more money. So we're just going to basically make a paywall for you to move forward. That's the pay to win idea. And somebody always says, well, if you can grind to get there, it's okay. You can charge anything because the grinders will go ahead and get through without paying. But that ignores the balance between what Victor used to say. You got lots of time or you got lots of money. Which one are you going to use?
I ain't got neither. So
Not
at all.
The question's
on the shelf. I'm gonna just agree with Nick.
What?
Not of course. I mean, it was great. It was a great assessment. What am I gonna say? I'm gonna add one wrinkle to it. I'm not gonna beat up on EA at all. I do think this when it came out by a couple of interns. And I said, look, I said, yes, there's a lot of backlash and they will pivot. Yes, Nick. All right. He goes from milk to beer. It's not going to work out good for your insides, but whatever. I said they'll adjust, and they did. So that's kind of that, you know, although maybe the damage had been done. I don't know what their numbers are looking like. I think if you're going to do something like that and potentially change the model, you probably shouldn't try it out with Star Wars as an IP, because I just don't know in my lifetime if the greater Star Wars community has ever, I'm not gonna say in my lifetime, but since probably the 90s, if they've been happy with their product, you know.
Yeah.
We need it just like the last one, but not like the last one. We need more lasers, but not lasers.
Right. So you're kind of not really. You're already you have quite the hefty battle ahead of you just to make those people happy. This is the wrong group to try it with. You get it right in Battlefield, or you get it right in something else, and then you work with Star Wars. Man, those guys, those fans they're a different group, right? They're a whole. They are the community. It's the #1 IP in the world. They're the community. They talk the most. They're the most rabid. They're the most vocal. That's just not the group to try it with. That's it. You know.
I think I will clarify my statement and say I'm not picking on Star Wars. I think they are, or on the Dice guys. I think they did what they were supposed to do. I think that games as a whole are using loot crates as a magic bullet. And then, I mean, hey, we got dinged for it too, but the good thing was Battlefront came out right at the same time as us, so everybody was looking at them. But we had Halo had rec packs, and they were seen as a positive thing. But I give those guys credit; they really balanced it out, so you didn't feel like the stuff that you needed to have was free. The stuff that you wanted to have, you could pay for, and it worked out really well. Nobody complained about that. And then we did it. We didn't necessarily do it as elegantly as I would have liked. There's sort of a bunch of choices in there that I don't feel are real choices. Things that don't necessarily offer themselves up as a thing you can choose, but they don't have any change to the actual game that you play. I think there's we're still struggling through as an industry, finding an elegant solution, which is unfortunate because I think there are good examples out there. The two that I mentioned, but the gacha mechanic is really well used in Japanese games and Japanese mobile games that don't piss people off. So maybe there's something to learn.
Indeed. The one interesting thing I thought was talking with a guy at work about this when it came out, because they know I used to work there, and anytime there's an EA store, like, oh, did you see that thing about EA? Was that thinking about loot crates though in general and just the mechanic of it is that I'm surprised we don't see more like regulatory explorations into it, because it is almost like a slight form of gambling. Like if you're going to be paying real world money, for example, Battlefield 1, I can pay $10 to get 10 more of these boxes. There's an assumption that because I paid, there's going to be something in there of a certain value, and that there's the cat and the mouse game of it, almost like a claw machine. It's like, every 16th pull down is supposed to be a harder pull. Something I learned this year. I'm good at claw machines. I never knew they're really that bullshit. I understood, maybe they don't grab so much, but the fact that they regulate 3 different ways at 3 different times, but the states have to come in there and make sure that things are winnable. So you start talking about loot crates. Well, are they really programming and engineering in there that, well, with every loot crate, you have a percentage better to get something better next time? And so to what extent are they doing that? So to me, it was always interesting that you don't see much of that.
I think what's interesting is the regulation. So China's been doing it for a long time. When you try and produce a game in China and you have anything that is hidden from the user with a random chance or a random chance of winning something, you actually have to present it as you have a 50% chance to win this kind of thing. So now if you play free-to-play games, they're all very, very clear about the chances to win the types of things that are in the game. For Forza Motorsport 6, we actually had to change some of the UI to represent that. There was no money involved. It was just these little card packs that you could apply to your car if you wanted to or didn't want to. You didn't have to do it, but they wouldn't even take it without giving the information on there, because it is a lot like gambling. So here's something interesting. If you worked at a university and you got a patent, the patent belongs to the university. So the money that the patent makes, the university makes. But if you wrote a book, the book belongs to you. So you get the money that the book makes. So write books, don't get patents. First lesson. Second lesson is somewhere, I think it might have been in the 90s or late 90s, there was a regulation that said games are not gambling because digital goods aren't real goods. You're paying for the entertainment, not for the thing you might potentially get. So now, in most Western cultures, at least in North America, it's not gambling, and it's sort of that holds up in court a couple of times. How long does that last? I don't know. But right now, we're protected from any of the regulations that require us to make certain things, I guess, past some of the standards that you're talking about, like the claw grabber with its every 16th time it hits it harder. Something like that. We don't have to do that now because somebody once said that digital goods aren't real goods, so it's not real gambling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vic. Anything else to add before we move on?
Supercell still does it the best, and that's why they're one of my favorite companies.
But do they do it the best for their other titles? Clash of Clans is absolutely.
I don't play them all. I do like the fact that they started to kind of modify. They're dynamic, which is something that's good. At the end of the day, for better or worse, it's good because people get to see change. People feel like they're actually doing something. But at this point, they have a lot of different things they do with their loot crates that are super interesting. They have loot crates that'll essentially give you like eight different cards. You get 8 cards, but they present them to you 2 at a time, and you get to pick one of the 2. Or you'll get this, or they'll present to you 4 cards, and you'll get to strike one, and then strike another. You'll get like 6 strikes. They kind of gamify the loot crate itself, or add some decisions to it. They're actually following a lot of interesting rules of engagement with just the loot crates themselves. Standard loot crate. So, their practices, they're effective. I don't think the community feels slighted because you chose to buy Loot Crate and you actually now get some choice in it. But that's that. Supercell's the best. 6 guys. 6 guys in a garage. Billionaires. It's like buying Bitcoin.
So on a related article I saw that kind of came about after this was, some financial analysts actually say, gamers really aren't being overcharged. They're undercharged if you really think about it. You think of other entertainment mediums, they calculate out, the cost per hour to play a game, at $60. Even the base game plus $20 a month in loot boxes, it's generally $3, or sorry, not $3. Sorry. $1 compared to like a movie that you pay basically $3 an hour to watch, whereas you have these games that have hundreds and hundreds of hours, and even if you spent all this money on loot boxes and stuff, it's still like a value, and that really it's kind of I don't know if gamers feel spoiled or entitled, or this is the age of the internet, where they just feel entitled. I see this in the beer industry the same way now, that the craft beer snobs and stuff and demanding things, where guys like Wicked Weed are getting bought out and they're no longer buying that product because they don't like that AB InBev owns it. And it's like there's this weird entitlement in craft beer, and I wonder if I'm seeing the same thing in gaming, where it's like, again, $60 game, even if I spent $200 in loot crates, it's still pennies on a dollar per hour of me playing of entertainment and value.
I learned something interesting listening to a podcast about Ticketmaster. You know how a music artist or a live show, they'll say, we sold out in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Everything was sold out. And everybody, and that's like a bragging right thing for them. And then you can dive into why that is with like ticket buying bots and stuff like that. And scalpers now make all the money and all that that's terrible. But for The Economist said, this is a symbol of a failed economy because you're undervaluing your product. If you are selling stuff that fast, that means that you're not pricing it accordingly to the demand. Mm-hmm. So I think about that every time Nintendo says, oh, we sold out all our boxes. And everybody thinks, oh, that's really, really amazing. You're so popular. And I just think, or you're not very good at business because you didn't have enough on hand, or you didn't charge enough. Now, there's a difference there, right? They're trying to seed the world with their boxes so that people will buy their games, but the games are the same thing. I mean, if the games are selling out all over, $60 now, I don't think is the same as it was before. And so there is kind of an undervalue to it. The other aspect is, where is the value now as a game developer? What is more important? The money that you're going to pay for my product, or the time you're going to spend in my product to potentially buy another one, right? If you play a game for a certain amount of time, you are now more guaranteed to buy the next one. If you play a game for a certain amount of time, you have a higher percentage chance of bringing in your friend, who, if he plays that game for a certain amount of time, is more likely to buy the next one. So I don't have an answer. I don't know if anybody does have like a real kind of nice number that says, oh, every every 10th day is worth the same as $1 spent on the first day or something like that. But the problem becomes more complicated.
It's an interesting point you make, because I've read something similar to Disney's pricing model. They say, we're going to keep raising the thing $10 because we keep almost needing to shut the park down. There's so many people here that maybe if we raise the prices, it'll make a better experience for the people who are there, because it won't be as crowded, it won't be as busy.
Yep.
And if you can see, it's like $130 to get into Disney now, whereas I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago it was like 80 or 90.
Is it really 130?
During peak, it's 130
for a day.
For a day.
On one park.
One park. During peak, if you went the week of Christmas.
What's $130 ticket? Because I remember when Universal went up to $99, that was the most expensive park in Orlando that year, which was I think the year I left. What's it now? Do you know, Victor? You don't have to pay.
$3.99.
$3.99.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper, and I would say as a grown man, you'll have more fun. That's my endorsement. I'm not going to talk about Universal. Cheaper.
Chicken.
No, it really is. It's not that. Yeah, it's cheaper, and it's different because I live in Florida, so I have not been exposed to the non-Florida ticket, but it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, here we go. It is. You're just to go back to your point. It is. They'll keep raising it as long as people keep paying for it, and they had to close the park somewhere at Christmas time, right? They had to close Magic Kingdom. They go to capacity.
Yeah,
they do.
I got interested in reading about it, as we were getting ready to take Dexter there for the first time, that they can fit up to 100,000 people in that place if they wanted to. And at certain stages, they have, like, phase 1, they shut down to anybody who doesn't have a season pass. At phase 2, they no longer allow, family member passes. At gate 3, like, if you ain't already in the park, you ain't getting in. Like, they have a whole approach, but they can fit 100,000 people in that place, which is unreal. I mean, that's a damn city,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A metropolis.
Yeah, basically.
All right, gents, moving on. So I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I want to talk about Nintendo this year. Nintendo had a pretty damn good year, I think. We saw the release of the Switch, the half handheld, half kind of home console. You guys picked this one up yet? Had a chance to play with it?
I have one on my desk at work.
Nick, you said no? You're shaking your head no, Nick?
I do not. I think I might. I'm debating it because my girls are now they are the perfect age for a lot of those games. Not that an older person couldn't play them, but like things like Zelda is for a 9-year-old. It might be the perfect game. You know what I mean? Like huge and enveloping and complicated enough. But I'll probably just get a couple of 2DSs instead.
I think it's great, actually. I think they need more games, but the games that they put out were fantastic. And by the games, I mean just Mario and Zelda.
That's all you use Nintendo for, generally.
I mean, that's it. I think now is probably the time to get one if you're considering getting a new console. It's got the mobility. It kind of fits the climate we're in for younger people and older people alike. You can play it regardless. The games are at the level that pretty much anybody can play it. Still play it with family. Still honors couch play. It honors travel play. It's good. It was a good idea. The only issue, I guess, is they basically had two kind of core areas that they went to tackle, and now they've combined them, so all their eggs are in one basket. So they need to succeed with this. But yeah, it's fun. Zelda in particular, Nick, is here we go. It's I had to say it at some point. They do a lot of things really, really well. They don't take a lot of risks, but they have nice, solid fundamentals when it comes to their gameplay. And that combat really is Dark Souls combat. Sorry to say it. It's Dark Souls light for kids. And it's funny because online somebody made a comment and they said, "Hey, you guys, Soul stuff," and From Software like responded from their Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, actually, everybody's been ripping off Nintendo for a long time, so we're, we don't want to claim that."
Yeah, whoa. I don't want
Right.
to get in that fight.
All right. Like, no, everybody's been inspired by Nintendo. So, but yeah, those mechanics do transfer over. It's kind of the slow, methodical combat, but it's light enough that it's more forgiving. So I think if you're ready to play some Dark Souls, just play Zelda. Okay. Yeah. That's it.
So, how much of the success of Nintendo has been relying on the nostalgia rather than the innovation and polish that they had in the past?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I think if they hadn't made two games that are fantastic, I would say that I think their marketing absolutely relied on nostalgia. But in the case of Zelda, for the franchise, it was very innovative. It's going to be iconic the way Ocarina and Link to the Past, like for its generation, it is the iconic title that you're never going to forget about it. Even in 20 years, if you had to name,
What if you took a 9-year-old kid that never knew about Zelda or never knew about Mario? Would he be talking about, or she be talking about, Zelda? Was it Breath of the Wild or something?
Yeah.
In 25 years as the game that got her into video game design?
I think Breath of the Wild is one of those games. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think Mario Odyssey is one of those games. As much as I love Mario, it's my favorite Nintendo franchise. They weren't as innovative. Breath of the Wild, it's innovative only for the franchise. There are a lot of things they took from other franchises that are just gold standard, and they did it well. And without many flaws. They just made sure that it was packaged very nicely, and it combines a lot. There's a lot of really good content and a lot of really solid content in the game. So I actually do think that. I haven't seen it put together that nicely, the exploration, the combat, everything, in a way that young people can play in a long time. For me, Dark Souls does that, but it's not for young people. It's not the game that you can say this got me into game design, because it's just too unforgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild is that game, and I am not, for the record, a Zelda fan. I'm not. I haven't. The Super Nintendo game, Link to the Past, yes, but I haven't actually been a fan of many of the Zelda games throughout the series franchise. This is my favorite Zelda game. I don't even like the other. I play them every time, and I'm like, Reggie, because they're always like, this is the best game ever. I'm like, well, it's the best game ever. I have to play it, and then I get mad. But this game, like, legit, like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now, I've actually never played a Zelda game. I've never owned a Zelda game, and I've never played a Zelda game more than a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's winning all sorts of awards, right? The game got Best Action Adventure, Best Game Direction, Game of the Year. So obviously they're doing something right there, for sure. And
it's Dark Souls. It's Dark Souls. That's why they won.
Execution on the console, the one thing I want to talk about, that for people who might not own a Switch yet, so it is part handheld, part home console. How's that Switch work and the peripherals? And I mean, is it as seamless as they make it seem? Is there any kind of fumbling? Are you not saving your games when you're supposed to save them? Like, what's been your experience kind of on that interchangeability?
I love Preston's got 97 years of test experience, and he's like, that does not work like that.
On me. I do think they had a few snafus. Like, they tried to make it do basically everything, sit on a dock. You can take the controllers off, you can configure them, you have outside peripherals you can hook to your TV, and obviously trying to encapsulate all of that stuff into this tiny device caused some problem. People scratching their screen on the dock, things like that. But actually, aside from that one, I'm glad it does all of those things, but I think I actually don't think it is set up the best for making that transition often. I think it covers a lot of bases, and I think you, as a consumer, you'll typically figure out what you want to use it for, and you won't change it unless your friends come over, and that's assuming you're not already on the television, right? Like for me, my Switch is going to be in the dock in two-hand mode. I'm going to take it somewhere. I'm going to travel with it, or I'm going to sit on the couch and play it while my wife's watching television. And I'm not going to dock it unless friends come over. But guess what? If I do dock it, it's probably going to stay docked for a while. It's just kind of how it is. It's, I'm not going to be changing from standard control to handheld to television every day. And I don't think it doesn't feel like it would be robust enough to handle that over the long haul either. So,
it's kind of a follow-up. I think the detriment of the Wii U was that it was kind of offering stuff that really nobody wanted or was asking for. And Nintendo, bless their heart, they go big a lot of times. They say, hey, we're going to try to innovate here, and they don't always hit a home run. Are you finding any of this kind of like the Wii U, where some of this stuff is like, it's cool, it's there, but who's asking for this, and what are we going to use this for?
The Switch is the Wii U. The Switch is the Wii U realized. It's what people thought the Wii U would be when it launched, that it wasn't. It literally is the Wii U. The graphics aren't that much better than the Wii U. It plays the same types of games, has the same kind of form factor. Love that, right, Nick? Form factor. As the Wii U controller, more compact, but it does the things that people actually wanted the Wii U to do. Because when the Wii U first came out, the biggest questions that everybody asked was, well, how far can I take this thing? Can I hook into Wi-Fi and play it somewhere else? Can I play it on a plane? Can I play it? Can I hook it up in my garage and play it in my bedroom? No, you can't. But you can play it in your living room from a remote control range. It's the Wii U. It is what the Wii U is. I think they said, let's try it again. We can make this work. And this time they did it.
Awesome. I want to stick to the game of the year kind of stuff one more time. So the indie game of the year this year was a game called Cuphead that I saw a couple reviews for, and it looked fantastic. And I was really interested to get Nick's opinion, though, being an art student and a lover of the craft of games as well as art. What did you think about this game? Did you get a chance to play it or review it? Or
I did. I saw it at E3 2 years ago when it was announced. And it's clear it was made by a couple of people that really love that art style. And I think it's cool that it looks so different.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's unfortunate that it is an absolutely punishing platformer. I think there's a really interesting, a sort of tangential conversation about the people that made it followed up on an art style that they weren't completely familiar with. And sort of, it's kind of like the game of telephone. Like, oh, I heard that art was like this in the 20s. Well, I'll draw stuff like this. But not necessarily thinking about why the art was that way or what the art represents. I think that was an interesting conversation. I also think it's a really good example of a small group of people can still make a really compelling game.
Awesome, man.
What do you think, Victor? Did you play it?
Yes, but I'm not very far into it. It's hard, man. The game is hard. That particular era of animation that they were trying to emulate is by far my favorite era, and it's like it's the very beginning, actually. I mean, that's my favorite style of animation, and it is my personal opinion. No offense to anybody, that I really don't think it's gotten better from this point. I'm not saying the animation is all bad now. I'm just saying the amount of time and detail they put into that style of animation was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I would to the point where it's like too much, but the payoff is there. So for me, I loved seeing that. I don't think people in general understand how much work the old head animators way back in the 30s had to put into
right
into making that stuff. So for me, I really appreciate it. I think it's worth a buy just for the amount of frames that they're producing.
Yeah.
With those animations, it's just really good to look at. The gameplay experience is, it's whatever. I've played better platformers. I've played better platform shooters. But they really did kind of nail the look, and they put a lot into it. So yeah, I appreciate that. I think I appreciate it for the reason that just about everybody else appreciates it for. It looks good.
I think yeah, in the olden days they would draw every single figure for every single frame, and I wonder if this game is actually, I don't actually know if it's animated at 24 or 60 frames a second. That would mean that some of these drawings would be done a whole lot of times, and you could get a lot of motion out of all that, which is pretty interesting. Victor, I'm curious if you read any of the sort of the social awareness and cultural appropriation commentary about the game.
No, I missed that. What is the internet saying?
So there are some. So as I'm following an article about how Assassin's Creed Origins talks about Egypt in a way that we don't usually know it in entertainment, just by the base of the one little fact that what's happening in Assassin's Creed Origins is like the era of Cleopatra is farther away from the first pyramids than we are from Cleopatra, right? So it's like 2,000 years between us and Cleopatra, and there's more than 2,000 years between Cleopatra and the first pyramids. So it's crazy. That's just a shocking, and it's not really. Usually, what happens is you mash ancient Egypt all together into pyramids and King Tut, and then that's all good, right?
Yeah.
Well, this article goes through and it talks about other. I'm iffy on the appropriation comment, but some of that 1930s style of animation used kind of stereotypes, and I think in this case I don't mean stereotypes in like a truly bigoted negative sense, but cartoons have to be universally recognized. And in old comic illustrator, they say these are tags. This guy smells bad because he has flies around him. Okay, so there's sort of that kind of stuff. Well, in the 1920s and 1930s, somebody from the Orient, which was anything east of, say, Spain, and south of the Mediterranean and all the way out to Japan, they were all the same. So you got pointy shoes and turbans in regions that are thousands and thousands of miles apart, right? So pointy shoes and turbans and Egyptian pyramids don't go together,
right?
But that style of animation makes that a thing. So all of a sudden, it sort of reduces lots of regions, cultures into one sort of stereotypical version. And they say the same thing about early 20th century Black culture being represented in those sometimes truly racist, but also sometimes with the guy, there's a boss battle there where everything is in this gambling motif.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the guy is supposed to be Black or not, but just some of the imagery was commonly in the 30s reference. So this is a guy, like, nobody would know this unless you were a student of this sort of artwork, but some of the imagery is references to like early 20th century Black Americans.
So like it's like some Calloway type stuff.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Well,
I think I know the character you're talking about with the
yeah. So
that's interesting. I don't get
it much. Like, I think like Cab Calloway would be. I mean, he's a pretty cool dude, right? So an image of him that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think I know. I've seen plenty of those cartoons. I actually find them very fascinating. I don't necessarily think that's something we should replicate this day and age.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating to see how, different cultures, Black people were represented in those old cartoons. I don't see that in Cuphead. So for me, I didn't have an issue. Also, like, it's really hard to call appropriation when you're talking about Cab Calloway or or anybody from that era. Like, we're not modern enough to appropriate anything. So yeah, whatever. I don't know. It was fun. It was a fun game.
I think one of the reasons why it came up with me is if you guys played Forza Motorsport, which I'm sure you've played lots and lots of hours, you'll notice that we don't actually show any skin tone in that game. All the helmets are full face, and the half face helmets usually have some kind of like a fire suit on or a bandana or something like that. And that's actually Microsoft says if you're going to show bodies, you need to show the spectrum. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? That makes perfect sense. And then as we started losing more and more time and trying to get those drivers to work, we were like, okay, no bodies or no flesh. And I thought,
bodies, wow.
Well, it wasn't the bodies. It was about the skin. I mean, it's a pretty easy decision to make in racing, right? You got to cover yourself up for fire, but it was kind of one of those things where the company felt it was important enough to mention, and we were like, sure, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it was not like I don't know that we wouldn't. I don't know that we would have missed that if nobody told us, but it just became a really big sort of conversation. And then Cuphead, published by Microsoft and huge at the E3 events, kind of runs across this social commentary, which is probably made a little bit, probably a bigger deal than it needed to be, but I thought it was interesting.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm gonna pick it up. You know, being a PC Steam gamer, I can wait. I got a backlog of games that I'll never play. So next year's winter or summer sale, when it goes 50% off, I'll probably pick it up. But
how many games do you have on Steam? How many games?
240 or something.
Really?
Not even kidding you. Yeah, let me look.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's too much.
How many have you played?
6. No. I've played a lot of them for like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll get back to this. Nope. I have 217 games right now. I just looked.
I will. Oh my.
It's those humble bundles. Those humble bundles for $5 to get 7 games. I can't pass them up.
If Steam was on Xbox or if Steam was on if it was accessible through my TV, I might have the same problem. I have 2 games on Steam, Crusader Kings and another game that I can't think of. It might be Sim City. No, that can't be right. That's got to be Origin.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I know we're getting close to that time to wrap up. So going to see if you guys want to join in another game of Jackbox.
I cannot wait.
All right. Go ahead and get your mobile devices ready. I'll get a screen share going. So the game we're going to play this year is off the new Jackbox Party Pack 4. It's a game called Surviving the Internet. So let's see if I can actually get this to work for once. All right, we're sharing. Can you guys see my screen?
Victor didn't talk at all about his time at Iron Galaxy and how he basically got to work on one of his childhood favorite games of all time this year. You must have been the creative driving force at that time.
Which game are we talking about?
Killer Instinct.
Oh yeah.
We talked about that last year.
That was it was fun. Yeah, Nick's been drinking. That game's dope, man. I mean, I got into games to make fighting games, and I finally got to do that. Actually, I've kind of told you this, man. I came into games to make 3 games. I came in to make a one-on-one fighting game, which I got to do twice. I wanted to make a multiplayer fighting game, which I didn't specifically make, but we did prototype some interesting stuff at EA. So I felt like I checked that box. And I wanted to make a game where you fought against giant monsters, and worked on a game like that at Iron Galaxy that's coming out in March. So aside from that, the only other game that I haven't been able to make is the game where a bunch of rednecks get on pickup trucks and fight each other off the truck beds. So I got to convince Universal to make that.
Goes right hand in hand with Transformers.
Yeah, if you guys can on your phones navigate to jackbox.tv, you should see the room code up here, NZTU.
So on my browser.
Yeah, on your internet browser, preferably on a different device. That way you can watch the stream and play along. We got Victorious there.
I'm so fast. I'm so internet savvy.
That's good.
So the point of this game, I'll give you the quick overview while we're waiting on Nick, is essentially you're going to be asked a question that you're going to answer. Then somebody else is going to get that answer, and they're going to get like a prompt to basically they're going to try to change your answer into something else that's even more funny. So they'll try to put that answer to like a different headline, like in a news story or like a forum post or something like that. The game does a pretty good job of explaining it. We were basically just trying to twist the words that somebody else used into something more funny.
Awesome.
So again, this is one of the new games from Jackbox Party Pack 4. They're like $20. I mean, they're alright, man. These are great party games, and they do a little bit of everything. They do drawing. There's some trivia. There's some other silly stuff.
Are you sponsored by Jackbox, Preston?
I am not, but it's pretty much the only games I play. So
you might want to hit them up as much as you podcast. Get that money. Get your money, man.
I could
tell them to pay you in Bitcoin.
Your podcast making money, Preston?
Hell no. We don't do it for the money, Vic. And we got Gene in. I don't know who Gene is, but
hey,
welcome.
Never make.
Who's Gene? Who's Gene?
Gene is a watcher, a watcher from the YouTube stream. So
nice.
Welcome aboard, Gene.
Hey, I should have posted it.
Yeah, you should have.
I suck. No, I plan on you shopping all this stuff around.
I did. All right, so
hey, I just had Adam Carolla's Endless Rant IPA.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
He makes his own beer, and he's a car nut.
Yeah, so generally they're going over the description of the game here. They're going to ask you a question, how do you feel about selfie sticks? You're going to type a comment in about how you feel. That is then going to go over to somebody else's screen where they've got to try to twist your words and make a funnier heading to, they're super dumb was your answer. They're now going to put a heading of, come on. So that was your answer down there. They're going to try to put a heading that makes you look stupid. Firefighters save kids. They're super dumb. So, the person
retro game night?
What's that?
You still do the retro game night?
Every so often. We have time permitting. It's very tough to fit it all in anymore. All right, so again, you guys playing at home, Gene there, we're streaming, so you're going to be a little more behind than the rest of us, but so just make sure you click on the fingers. All right, so you should have a prompt on your phone now.
Let's see what my phone says.
It says, thanks. The internet needed your opinion.
Yeah, when you submit your answer. So again, those watching from home, your timer you see live here is probably a little less than what you're seeing in the real world. So let me quick on the fingers there. All right, so now your answers have been sent to somebody else, and you'll see that answer would be a ridiculous comment to a video titled So again, everybody's typing in their answers now.
This is awesome. I'm also really bad at typing on my phone.
I like how when you're done, it's like, thanks. We hope you're happy with yourself.
All right, so now we have the combinations.
Victor's dream game.
That actually is what I said I wanted to make.
It was already there.
Whoa.
Okay, it's not family.
Wait a second now.
Trombone solo, good way to end a relationship. Or we have watching Frozen. I scream like a little girl. Right, so everybody's got to pick which one they think made everybody look the most silly. And And the people who got burned get a little bit of points, and the people who made the combo burn get the most.
We need music.
Yeah. When I thought you were going to be on your phone, I decided not to set it up to where I could have all the audio because I didn't think we were going to be able to play it today. But
oh, so you're going to blame me?
Kind of.
Did I get some points? Yeah, I think so.
So Gene created that. Nick had the ultimate sacrifice.
Ultimate sacrifice.
Yep, you're the one who got burned.
This is terrible. I hate this idea.
Gene, rising to the top.
There we go, man.
Gene.
All right, so round number 2, you should be getting another prompt. You'll feel your phone vibrate. So crowdfunding, that's kind of the clue there. What your answer should kind of relate to. All right, prompts being sent to your phone.
How would you describe politics? And I can't read it out loud. Let me be quiet.
No, go ahead. It's fine. I just made a Monty Python reference, and I think it's probably completely lost on this crowd, unless Gene. Unless Gene represents.
All right. Well, I got it. I got that one.
I have mad shits, yo. Oh, be a silly comment. No autocorrect?
Yep.
So, Victor, I was talking to Barnes the other day. He said he had to go to like a firefighter training and harness buckling school.
Oh my gosh.
And he said he wears a hard hat far often than he expected.
Reusable toilet paper. I have mad poops, yo. My son's home.
My son.
A brand new type of cracker.
Oh gosh.
That's awesome.
Tired of fart blasting a-holes? I fart in your general direction.
Fart blasting.
And making communication simpler. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
That's actually pretty good. All right, so which one of these mashups do you like the best?
You already know the answer.
All right, I had to vote for you, Victor. That was pretty good.
Reframe that right.
Yeah, put that right there.
Damn. Gene's killing it.
Gene is so funny. Who are you, Gene? How do we not know who Gene is? I'm just glad he's here.
Yeah.
Listen, he's been our fan for years, and we
like, I mean, he actually has an icon and everything. He has an icon.
Social media. So hashtag these ones if you can.
Social hashtag.
All right.
Could have been worse. Oh man.
Oh boy.
Did you make these questions, Preston?
I sure did not.
Did you guys watch The Punisher?
Yeah, it was dope.
It was.
I got a couple more episodes, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
You didn't quite get to the end yet?
Not yet. Not quite.
The last 2 episodes are pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, look. What is that? Is that real?
No.
Oh, this is Gene and Todd. Oh no, I lost my survive the internet. There it is.
Overheard in the airport.
Did you watch Bright?
Yeah, I watched Bright, man.
I just watched it 2 nights ago.
I think people were too hard on Bright.
Yeah, that's what Sue and I were saying. It's not bad.
No, it's a grab bag of a bunch of stuff. It's Lethal Weapon meets Fifth Element with the featuring the Avatar tree.
Featuring the Avatar tree. My daughter's really big into oh my god.
Oh gosh.
I'm not voting for you again, Victor.
Well, the top one was victorious. Somebody else put the hashtag. So Vic will get just a few pity points.
It's a tie. And I'm not
Gene. It's Gene again. I feel like Gene has some kind of like internet filter. Like, all people are playing the game. Let's jump in. Time to dominate.
He just shows up.
Yeah.
I heard Jackbox. I'm here.
I think he's AI.
He might be.
That's a smart, funny AI.
So Korra. So there's the Avatar: Last Airbender, and then there's the Korra, right? The second one. Have you watched that one?
Yeah. No, I haven't watched Korra yet.
So it's pretty good. I really like the artwork and the world. It's more recent. So there's buildings and traffic but it's all like maybe 1900 kind of stuff rather than ancient. Gene would look crazy if they posted this picture with the caption. I've done a terrible thing, and it says, "We hope you're happy with yourself."
Yeah,
I'm not actually happy.
I can't type on my phone.
Victor, how much of your job is design now?
Half. I think it's a perfect mix, actually, of design and kind of production.
Oh yeah,
the rash looks kind of like this.
Yeah. So I ended up getting the title show producer. Barnes got the title creative producer. But yeah, we both do a lot of design and a lot of other stuff, a lot of production stuff.
So, like, are you cracking the whip and organizing, aligning intent?
Yeah. I actually think I do more production than Barnes at this point. He gets he has a nice little retirement job where he's happy doing exactly, what he wants to do. He's back to designing, so I'm happy for him. Yeah, but we got some talented interns that have been given project management roles to kind of help us out. So I'm happy with that.
Okay. I spend a lot more time doing project management than anything else.
Man. Well, I'm glad we have this podcast.
All right, so we got a couple more votes still outstanding.
I'm voting for you again, Victor. That's a good one. Reference pick for my tattoo.
It's Gene, man. It's Gene.
Was that Gene?
It was Gene, man.
Best bird.
AI got us, man. The AI.
Ultimate sacrifice. Oh no, he's killing us.
Final score, yeah. Gene.
So the moral of this whole podcast is don't let the AI evolve too much. We don't have a chance.
All right, so that was Survive the Internet. Hope you guys like it.
Boston Dynamics, I'm scared of you.
Barnes said the best thing when he was taking this job. He's like, I think my last job was a girlfriend, but Universal is a wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Very cool. All right, hope you guys had fun. Like I said, Jackbox, pretty fun game. That's just one of the 4. They got a ton of different stuff. It's all fun.
They were selling it on Xbox Live. I should try it. I should see if I can try it.
Yeah, and you can usually find the whole collection, on sale for nothing, pennies.
Awesome.
Pennies on the dollar.
Fun game.
Well, we do have one viewer, so that Gene may have been a real dude.
Come on,
maybe
Gene.
just got smoked by Gene. All right, gentlemen. Final thoughts. Nick, what are you looking forward to in 2018?
Absolutely. What am I looking forward to? I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. The industry has changed enough to where what I have done for the last nearly 20 years, 1999 being the first game job I had, it is going to be different. Now, it's not different for everybody. There are free-to-play mobile games and subscription-based games that have been doing a lot of what's coming up for console games, but to do that in the console world is going to be a different experience. And I think that sort of the market that the console game world, the AAA game world had, it's already there. Like, we know exactly how many we're going to sell, more or less, enough to where we can make good predictions. But to grow that market, there's things like China, that's one. But also to grow the market in the sense of revenue means to give people more entertainment and more hobby for longer time. And that's something that has not been done in the console world. And that is about to happen really full blown in the next 12 months. I promise.
All right. Any games or anything you're looking forward to playing next year?
I think I'm probably going to help you out with that 214 games. You could gift some to me. I'll just write a little book report on it.
Yeah. Do that.
I hope to finish XCOM 2 sometime in the next 6 months. Just this week, I landed my first spacecraft in Elite Dangerous. Have you guys played that game?
No.
You must have, Preston, with VR?
Elite Dangerous? I mean, I've played it over at Will's house, here or there sparingly, just, some of the games he's showcased. That was not one of them.
I may not have done anything more satisfying than landing a shuttlecraft in the landing bay ever in my life. No video game achievement matches being able to land the shuttlecraft.
What about landing the plane on the aircraft carrier in Top Gun on the Nintendo? That
was up there for sure. Let's say, you know what? This is a really good conversation. You know what? Another really flight thing, leaving in, I think it was Battlefield 3 in a Huey, flying with a full squadron, landing at a point with a controller, not with my stick, because on Battlefield 2 is a stick, landing with the controller, everybody dumping out except for Jerry Phaneuf, who manned the gun, and I just did donuts around the flag while he just blew up everybody, and nobody died in my helicopter that time. That was pretty satisfying too.
Victor, 2018, what are you looking forward to gaming wise?
Honestly, I think 2017 was such a good year that the industry has forgotten to hype up 2018. Like, for real. Like, do you see any commercials for anything coming out? Like, I don't know. So I think I'll just probably play my 2017 games, and then I'm going to be forced to play Shadow of the Colossus again because it's in HD, and every time they do this, I think, man, I bet they'll make the controls modern so they feel right, and they won't. But I do think my new gig will have me spending more times in parks and looking at other types of interactives and other ways to bring interactive entertainment to people. So, kind of look forward to exploring the edges of digital entertainment and gaming and seeing the experimental stuff people are doing.
Yeah, I can't wait to come check it out. Knowing you're a part of it, I want to see the first big thing you work on, and I'm sure we'll be bringing the son out there at some point. He's a little older, so I look forward to checking that out for sure.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, gentlemen. Final thoughts. Nick, what do you have? What do you want to say before we get out of here?
This was great. We should do it more often.
Vic?
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see everybody. I'm glad we could do this once a year, and yeah, let's keep the party going.
Absolutely. Maybe we can bump it up to twice a year.
Preston?
What was that? You were robotic out there, Nick. What'd you say?
I said we should be able to do this twice a year. Come on.
We'll see. See if I can get you guys together. It's once a year is tough. Twice a year might be pushing it. Not that I don't want to. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap this one up. Gentlemen, definitely appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure seeing you and doing this. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. I'm Preston. That is Nick. That is Vic. This was the 2017 Design Forum Podcast. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next year. With that, we're out. See you.